Three, two, one. Bear down, Bears fans. Me and the good kid are live on the YouTube side from the. Are we in the sewer? Are we rocking with the Ninja Turtles right now, Yerk?
I like to inside Capone's vault. That's where we're at right
We're
now.
in the vault.
We're in Capone. I'm waiting for Geraldo to come around and show me the bottle that he found. Hey, it's an old whiskey bottle. Al Capone must have drank here.
Well, we
One
got
of the biggest epic failures in the history of journalism.
got a jammed packed show for you. Well, Yerk might be going at some journalism here that we got to see today because people are overreacting to Caleb Williams talk left and right.
Yep.
Caleb Williams spoke for 10 minutes at the podium, and people have made lifelong decisions based on that. Got to break all that down on today's episode of the Chicago Bears podcast. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Good kid. First things first, how you feeling?
I feel great. I feel fantastic. Combine week. It's the one thing, people ask me about draft week. I said I wouldn't know anything about draft week. I didn't get drafted. Right. So I just knew that it was one big utter disappointment. But the combine, I did get invited to the combine, had a chance to go down there and put myself out in front of all the teams. So it was kind of fun. And it probably is fun for a majority of those guys.
Yeah.
But it's also a little bit stressful because you've got to perform. And guess what? That's the beginning of you having to perform at a professional level. This is it. This is where you start performing. This is when you start doing your jumps, your athletic feats, whatever you can't do. You put the good 40 number up, you put the bad 48 number up. I watched Orlando Brown Jr.'s tape of when he was coming out in the combine. Yeah. He'd never thought he'd be able to play the game of football at all. So numbers sometimes lie, and you got to watch the guy play and then, go to the combine. And ultimately those numbers make things happen for you. So I like it. I like the combine. I like the fact the guys are down there. I think there's a reason to have it. I think it's good. I think what they put everybody through just gives you a little bit more of a piece of information. But ultimately, the way the guy plays is what should dictate when or where he gets drafted. So
maybe yesterday was just the first time I've noticed it. It's always been this way. But did it feel like the field conditions were a little bit crappy yesterday watching the combine? I saw like every defensive lineman slip trying to do some of those drills.
Well, you got to play with balance.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to do the best they can, be the quickest they can. So they're you're operating on the precipice of disaster, where the possibility is that you're going to slip or you're going to lose your footing. So you just got to play with better balance. That's all it is. You got to understand where you're at, what kind of footing is, and then you operate the way you've got to operate on whatever the field is and the field conditions are. So
that is what's going to happen in the NFL.
That's right. I mean, you see guys slipping all the time. Grass gives way. Things start to happen. Nothing worse than watching a receiver come out of a break, the DB goes to the ground, it's an easy reception, or vice versa.
Yeah.
You got a receiver coming out of a break, he falls, the defensive back is sitting there with the football in his arms. Because where the receiver was supposed to be, he's no longer there, he's on the ground, and the football was coming to him when he was getting out of his break. He goes to the ground, quarterback had made his decision already, and the defensive back is just sitting there catching it. So, that's what happens.
And then you look at the end of the year and you go, well, he had 17 interceptions. It's like, well, the receivers kept slipping.
Well, or the ball gets batted in the air. That's the one that gets counted, or you get the Hail Marys at the end of the year, and they want to say, well, listen, the coach asked me to throw a Hail Mary. It was up there. It's a 50-50 ball. Who knows what the hell's going to happen?
Justin knows a thing or two about that.
Yeah, he's got two of them.
He's got two of them. He's got two of them.
That's why your best quarterbacks, your confident quarterbacks, never care about the numbers. They just look at the victories.
Did you see anybody yesterday out there scooting that reminded you of you at all?
Nope.
Little maybe somebody's going to overlook this guy and he's going to sneak onto a team and be a pretty good player?
No, nobody's reminded me of anything. I haven't even started doing my analysis yet. I'll wait for the numbers to come in.
Yeah.
And I know there's a handful of defensive tackles that came out. Now, if we look at last year, Kalijah Cansey came out.
Oh, I love
He ran a 4.67 40. Came out, kind of legitimized what you kind of saw on tape. Another kid from Pittsburgh coming out, Aaron Donald Light.
Yeah.
He went down to Tampa and he had 4 sacks. He got injured early in the season also, so he didn't give you the type of repetitions he was going to give you. But 4 sacks, okay, not bad. Probably had some pressures in there too, but he didn't play the run well, and he got lost in the run. And so when you're a guy like Cansey and you get upfield too far, you get out of position a little bit too far, you start to create some holes in there. So he's got to learn how to tighten that up. and he's got to learn how to tighten it up. And it's going to be down distance and personnel that's going to tighten it up for him. So there's a guy that you thought in a position you thought that was going to have some strong people. Maisie Smith got into the league, first round pick, who's out of Michigan, I believe. He's terrible. Terrible. But if you watched him play at Michigan, you didn't think he was going to be a great pro.
Right.
You thought he could just be a solid guy.
Right.
He was no good. No good. It's tough to play in the interior. It's tough because you got bodies everywhere, and sometimes you feel like you're doing what you're supposed to do, and all of a sudden you're not doing anything. So it's a tough position to play. That's why I got to break down the defensive tackles. Not that that's a priority for the Chicago Bears because they took 2 guys. I think they actually drafted 3 guys last year in the interior tackle positions.
They picked. I don't know if he was a draft pick.
Dexter Pickens and the 5th rounder.
Yes, the young guy. I think
Right.
we ended up letting him go during the season. He got picked up.
Yeah.
He was a meatball
rounder.
of a man. I'll
Yeah.
tell you that much.
He was a 5th rounder. So I mean, they did pay attention last year to the defensive tackle position.
Too. What was his name? He didn't make the team.
It was like not Kent State, but like Kutztown State, Kennesaw.
Yes.
So it was like Kennesaw State or something like that is where the young man came from. But either way, so they paid attention to it last year.
Right.
The point is that guys got drafted in the first round last year, and the defensive tackle position, I believe, disappointed as a whole last year as they converted into the NFL, which isn't to be shocking because it's tough to transition to the NFL at an interior defensive tackle position. The guy that did it very well and got an A+ last year was the kid in Philadelphia that nobody wanted from Alabama that got himself in trouble last year. So he came in. He was the true stud. He was the guy at the position. He went to Philadelphia and actually had himself one hell of a year.
Yeah.
So the stud came in and did it. Everybody else kind of struggled at the defensive tackle position.
Came in hot. It fizzled out a little bit at the end, but also was
still from where
season.
He was drafted, he was drafted, I think the Philadelphia Eagles were very happy with him. They were allowed to let somebody go that got paid a whole ton of money over at Denver or San Francisco. I think they ended up sending a guy to. So I think it just worked out for Philadelphia that way. Yeah, Jalen Carter. Yeah. I had his name on the tip of my tongue, but I forgot it. I confused him.
Did you find the meatball?
Is there a Carter with the Bulls?
Travis Bell. That's exactly who he was. He was a camp standout. I was like, this guy's for sure gonna make the team. And then it was like, nah, we got to keep Justin Jones.
Well, I think Justin Jones is a professional. He's a good player. Same thing with Billingsley in the middle, my guy. Number 97. Yeah.
That's a bigger
Billing's a pro, that's what he is. He's a pro. And if you see some of his quickness when he's out there, some of the TFLs he got this year, but you've got to be able to utilize that with your big defensive tackles in the middle. But let's get back to what everybody wants to talk about.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk.
I want to talk about Caleb Williams.
Let's talk about the case because I got to get your take on some of the stuff that has come out here, Yerk. Yeah. Jim Rutledge, shout out to Jim, sent me a picture of a tweet here.
Who's Jim Rutledge?
Up in Wisconsin, up in Madison, ESPN, Wisconsin.
I got you.
Said we spent 10 minutes with Caleb Williams for this from Pro Football Talk.
Yeah, PFT.
We spent 10 minutes with Caleb Williams. Condolences to the Vikings, Lions, and Packers. This guy is the real deal, and the Bears will have their first franchise quarterback since Sid Luckman. When you heard Caleb talk today, did you go that far? Were you that enamored with him?
No. You've got to remember this is all a show. So you go off of your analysis, and you go to your junior year too. You go off the analysis you had there. You go off the analysis for this year. If I were to talk to Caleb Williams, I'd just say, hey, let's break down the Notre Dame game.
Yeah,
that's what I want to know. What were you thinking? What was going on? What was happening? What call was going on here? Did you agree with everything that was called? Did you disagree with everything that was called? What did you see? That's what I want to know.
Right.
Okay, just what happened during that Notre Dame game last year. And then as you go on and as the season's getting a little bit more disappointing than the season before, as you're not being considered for the Heisman Trophy and things like that, as they start going on, what are your emotions? What are you thinking? Then not playing the bowl game doesn't bother me because these are business decisions that are being made. And if anybody was in a position that he was in where he's going to be the number one pick possibly, there's no way in hell that you would risk your future by going and playing in a meaningless, and that's what they are. If you're not playing for the national championship, these are all meaningless bowl games. These are just a little drive for the cash, something for the sponsors of the program, something for the people that provide the NIL money. That's what that is. That's just basically a come on the trip. Let's go have a good time. We'll spend a week with the football team. They're going to try to, wine and dine you and get more money into next year. So I don't blame Caleb Williams for for that. But I want to know what happened in the Notre Dame game, and then what were the feelings with you, the team, the coaching staff, everybody as you move forward. I think it's important to get his feedback and to see what his perspective was. And if you could have changed something, if you could have made something different, what would that have been? And to see the kind of way he thinks and the way that he processes stuff and the way that, his outlook is and, kind of what set him and his football team back last year. So I think that's the important thing to get from Caleb Williams. Everything else you need to see is on film. I don't know if he did the medical or he didn't do the medical.
He's giving the medical records to the teams that he's interviewing with, basically. He knows he's not going past 3.
Well,
and so he's basically saying, I'm giving it to the teams.
He's not subjecting himself then to the medical process down there.
Yes.
I'd have to go back on his injury history. I don't think there's a big injury history with him.
No, not with
so
him.
It may not be a problem. But if they have the records, the team that's going to pick you is still going to want you to go through an MRI or some specific x-rays on specific areas if they got any questions about it.
Yeah.
Knees, hips, elbows, shoulders, that kind of thing. They're going to want to take a look at that. So at some point, you're going to have to see that. You're not going to be able to deny that. And your college records aren't quite going to do it.
Right.
We need fresh x-rays.
Yeah, what happened during the offseason?
Fresh scans.
Did you Carlos Boozer yourself over a bag here?
Yeah, well,
Who
remember
cut
the old
was it
Carlos
Derrick Rose
Boozer
that cut
thing?
himself with a knife or something like that? Cutting fruit?
Oh, God, there, Jeff Kent.
Yeah,
You had a slew of things that have happened over the course of time where guys have gotten injured claiming I tripped over my dog, this and that. God, I forget who it was for the Carolina Panthers had an issue like that. Where one of their big, David Garrido, I think, offensive tackle.
What a name pull.
Yeah, Garrido. I think he had an issue like that where he tripped over something or something bad happened. It's just crazy things like that happen all the time. Boozer's involved. Hello, Joel. Maybe I'm not your type, Joel. Yeah, you never know.
That was one of the funniest. It was just like I was walking down the stairs and the suitcase was there and I didn't see it. Even though I put it there, and then I tripped over.
Why were you rushing to the front door? What didn't you want the neighbors to see? Interesting.
There's a lot of questions out there, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of questions out there. Like a little scruffle coming in, a little stubble.
My mustache is dark.
Yeah.
And my beard is white.
Yeah.
So it gives it a goofy appearance.
Yeah, I think it gives it an experienced appearance there. Well, yeah, I mean,
well, it just makes it look like the mustache is thicker than the beard.
Yerk's having way too much fun with the green screen behind him.
I can't help it. Well, I'm not even. The brakes are great. I mean, you can throw whatever you want back there.
Yeah,
the green screen. I mean, it's fantastic.
It's phenomenal.
I can't stand the white beard with the dark mustache.
I mean, listen, I'm not gonna lie. Please, if you do come in here with the with a little bit of the black on, right? You darken it up a little bit.
That's
just do
happen.
the podcast that day. Just go full jet black.
No, that ain't never gonna happen. I don't color anything.
Bring it all the way back.
The Lord gives you what He gives you.
Yeah,
that's just the way it is.
That's what you get.
So when it goes gray, it's gonna go gray. When it finally disappears, and I've been fighting it off, finally disappearing. Look at that chrome dome right there.
Hey, look.
Oh man, that's not going to be a good look when this little patch leaves.
Yeah,
that is not going to be a good look. I'm going to have to call Hairline Croatian and get some stuff done.
Well, they say Turkey's the best spot to go right now. The whole thing, $10,000.
Constantinople,
$10,000, whole thing. You get in there, you get the hair put back in, you come back over.
Can I get a breast augmentation there too?
You can.
Get these things minimized.
Oh, are you trying to reduce? I thought you were trying to add a little bit there.
I got too many side boobs, man. I got to get rid of my side boobs too.
We'll push it.
All right, let's get back to football.
All right, let's start some football. It's on me. It's my fault.
Well, you're the guy driving the show.
This is true. Let's.
You can't let me drive it into the ditch and think it's going to be okay.
Well, we just went a little off road there. We'll work.
I got you. We're back.
Hold
on, Duncan. There we go.
Get that advertisement out
buy
there.
it in the grocery store.
Get that advertisement.
Dunkin' Donuts.
You can buy it in the grocery store. Actually,
can you?
They got the
Keurig cups.
Yeah,
Keurig cups.
Yeah. When you're talking about it, zoomed in on your threw them off. When you're talking about this weekend's process.
Yeah.
what is the most important thing that you think the Bears needed to accomplish this weekend as far as Caleb Williams, as far as the Justin Fields situation?
I think with Caleb Williams, with all the quarterback situations and all the interviews they're going to have, remember they pick at 9 too, which is just as important.
Right.
So the ninth pick is as important, and they're having it. So it's just the introduction to all the possibilities that can happen for the Chicago Bears. And I had a feeling going into this week, they already knew what they were going to do with Justin Fields. So whatever they were introduced to down at the combine hasn't changed their mind that they've already had. Whatever they knew they were going to do with Justin Fields, that hasn't changed. Just because they went to the combine, they interviewed a lot of people. They got the first pick, they got the ninth pick. They got to do their due diligence. But nothing that happened at the combine changed what they thought about Justin Fields. So whatever their experience was there, they've already made a decision on Justin Field, whatever it's going to be.
Right.
They're going to keep him. They already knew they were going to keep him before they went down there.
Right.
Nothing that happened down there is going to change the fact that they might want to keep him.
The plan's already in place.
Right. If the plan, and if they were ready to move on from him, nothing that happened at the combine was going to stop them from moving off on him. Right. So there's not that much there to glean, except for the medical stuff. The medical stuff is the most important stuff. Get him in, get him through, let him see the team doctors to figure it out. And if he's not going to do the medical stuff, then you really can't really get any information on Caleb Williams this week.
And all they really have done, right, is they did the interview a couple nights ago. And Caleb talked about it today. He said, you don't get much from 10 minutes. You're talking with them for 10 minutes. They're getting to know you to things like that, but you're not figuring out lifelong decisions from the 10 minutes that you're getting in that meeting. And I thought it was very interesting hearing Caleb talk about, the thing I want to know from Chicago is just, do they want to win? Is this what they want to do? I mean, like, that to me is like putting it back on the Bears. Like, if you don't pick me, have fun. And so it was an interesting interview for me today. Like, I was sitting there watching, I was like, he sounds confident in himself. I love it.
Sure.
I'm not gaining anything massive from this. People were losing their minds. Right.
You got 32 teams out there. You got 32 teams that want to win. Some teams are in a better position to win now than other teams are in a position to win. And that's just the way it works. It usually runs in cycles. Some teams' cycles last a lot longer than other teams' cycles. The Tom Brady cycle lasted for the better part of 18, 19 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great cycle. That's fantastic to be able to be competitive that long. Kansas City's currently in like a 10-year cycle, 11-year cycle, where they found a way. Once Andy Reid got there, they started getting to the playoffs, and they've had a wonderful record with Andy Reid as the coach. Even before Mahomes got there, Andy Reid was still starting to turn that program around and had him heading in the right direction.
Before Mahomes gets there.
Yep. So, all teams want to win. Just some teams are in a better position to win, and you don't have to be a rocket scientist to look around the league to see who's in a better position to win than the other teams in the league. So
I think that's the thing too. He's like, listen, the Bears were 7-9 last year. They had a good defense. They're
7-10.
7-10. I'm sorry. Yeah, I went back there, didn't I?
Yeah.
The 7-10
from 4 years ago.
Yeah, they're adding games. They're adding games. Wait till 7-11 comes in.
Oh, it'll be there.
You can go 7-11.
I think the 18th game is the natural game that they'd want to go to. The great thing about September this year, the football year starts September 5th this year, September 4th next year. And then it gets kicked back and it goes back to like September 10th the year after that. So we got to wait 5 extra days. And then your Super Bowl will be like February 21st. Right. That's not going to be fun. Waiting such a long. Well, it goes to the 18th week. Yeah, it's going to be too long. They're going to have to expand rosters.
The first 4 weeks are going to be too long because it's just going to it's going to further people basically saying we're not worried about the first.
I love the fact that the combine's happening. Everybody gets overly excited. Everybody goes a little bit crazy. But at the end of the day, when you're the individual teams, that you basically have to discount everything and all the. It's great for the fans and it's great for ESPN or Pro Football Network. Whoever's covering it's great for them. They got some fodder and they go, look at this guy run, look at this guy do that, look at this guy do that. Okay, that's great. That's fun. But at the end of the day, you still have your scouts and your people and your assessments. And now the Bears got to get to business once they get back. They got a short amount of time until the tampering period starts. And whatever move or whatever decision you're making with Justin Fields is going to have to be made.
Yeah, we'll see what they end up doing here. I want to ask you about this though. This little situation we heard from Orlovsky yesterday, and that's actually going to be our
Dan Orlovsky.
You're on the
All right.
clock. Brought to you by Toyota. The road to the draft. Brought to you by Toyota. Toyota. Let's go places.
Toyota.
Jurko. Dan Orlovsky believes that the Chicago Bears should take Jayden Daniels, number 1 overall.
Right.
Louis Riddick said, I can see why he would say that, the intangibles, how the player plays, but I don't believe that the Chicago Bears would do that. You have gotten a raise. You're now the GM. You get the nice orange tie, a blue jacket. You look phenomenal out here. Get the nice corner office.
Yep.
Is there anything right now that you've seen, you've heard, that could move you on from taking Caleb Williams, number 1 overall, and selecting another player instead of moving back?
I'd be moving back if I didn't believe Caleb Williams was the guy, because Caleb Williams is in a position to go number 1. I'd be going back. Listen, I'm still of the belief that I'd keep Justin Fields. I'm of that belief. I've said it. I put it on the record. That's what I still think should happen. It's probably not going to happen. Here's my thing with Jayden Daniels. What changed between 2022 and 23? He became a much more successful player than 100%. He was in 2022. So what changed? Point it out to me. What happened? What was the difference? Why was he a much more effective player the next year as opposed to 2022? What held him back in 2022? What did he change personally? What did Jayden Daniels, what was it that he personally did that made him a more successful player the next year?
Right. A much more
so when he says that, so I'd ask Dan Orlovsky that question, okay? You think the Bears should take him number 1. Why, Dan?
Right.
Don't just spew what you're going to say. Tell me why. What did he do specifically between that year and the next year? That year older, year wiser, more veteran, took his leadership role, blah, 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 all the football crap. I want it specific. I want to be able to see it on film. I want to know what he did. What did he do? What didn't he do in 2022? What did he do in 2023?
Right.
Was it him? Or was it what they were doing with him? Was it the people that were surrounding him? Did it become that much better? Did they get a bunch of guys in the transfer portal and all of a sudden the talent everywhere was better and he just happened to be along for the ride? Or was he the key guy, the cog that helped store the difference? Was it that he got a few players, but it was his play specifically and the way he went about his business that made the difference for LSU and for Jayden Daniels last year? That's what I want to know. And when I don't get it and I don't hear that and I don't hear that rhetoric, then guess what? I don't quite believe it yet.
Right.
So whether I want to know exactly what happened and why was he a better player. And I want to be able to put my finger on it and know exactly what the hell's going on. So
I think that is the biggest question, at least for me. And I think, when I asked, I think I did a show with Abdallah one day, and he was like, Jayden Daniels was just, he was a little bit, he played teams that maybe ended up being a little bit weaker on the schedule this year. When he went up against the Alabamas and guys like that, they struggled a little bit more.
I mean, but, did you beat the crap out of Troy State?
Right.
I mean, your 4 worst teams on the schedule. Do you have 24 touchdowns against them? Yeah. Did you pad the schedule? Is that what happened?
Like, there's some interesting thing, but the one thing Orlovsky said, I think that maybe scares me the most, is he pointed out a very specific thing that he was good at. He said he was very good with peace in the pocket versus man coverage. I was like, okay, well, what do you do versus zone?
Yeah.
What did he do? Because I watched Mitch Trubisky versus Detroit when they decided to go straight up man, eviscerate them 6 games in a row. I watched Mitch Trubisky put up 6 touchdowns on Tampa Bay when they went straight up man, eviscerated. So like.
Then they dropped 7 guys into a zone, and then you had to find him in a timely manner, and it couldn't be done. Peace in the pocket.
He said peace in the pocket. He said
most quarterbacks, when there's peace in the pocket, I need the guys that can perform when there's hell and chaos happening, and they can still perform. Where's the peace in the pocket? I watched the Super Bowl. There wasn't a lot of peace in the pocket.
I get you.
There's a lot of chaos.
No, I hear you. That was the one thing that I was like when
Peace.
he's like when he's he's got peace in the pocket. He's comfortable. He manages the game well, and he's very good with using his arm versus man coverage. I was like, there's teams that aren't going to play you man the entire game in the NFL. Like, are you telling me what you're saying to me by not saying it is I should be concerned when he sees a zone? Or I can develop this guy into just figuring out how to read
Yeah,
a zone,
I mean,
which could be.
he's giving you. He's got to say something.
Is that what
So
it is?
rather than saying in a simplistic manner, he tried to go ahead and impress you with some of his verbiage. Peace in the pocket.
Peace in the and that was PEACE. He
Mhm.
made sure to spell it out for us. He
Yeah.
made sure to spell it
I
out.
said peace in the pocket. I get it. Peace.
Oh man! Anything you're looking forward to this weekend, Yerk, from the combine? Anybody you're trying to focus in on?
No, there's nobody. No safeties. I'm not concerned about it. My initial concern right now, it should be with everybody in the city of Chicago, is what are they going to do with Justin Fields?
Yep.
So, what kind of pick are you getting back? Are you getting a player back? What are you getting back? And then after that, what are you going to do in free agency, and what are you going to address in free agency? Those are the next 2 weeks' plans. Is the focus. I'm not worried about the combine. I'm not worried about anything that they're doing in the combine. I can look at numbers and see numbers and say, okay, this just is confirming everything that you might know about a player. I'd rather sit and watch games and watch films. I'd watch one game against a team that they beat the living crap out of, then I'd want to see a game that they lost or a game that he may have struggled in. And then I'll watch specifically what happened and what were the struggles and why were they there. So, I mean, that's why I like to break down individual players, be it offensive tackle, offensive guards, be it anywhere. What gives the kid trouble? Is the thing that gives the kid trouble, can it be corrected? Is it easily correctable? Like last year, Kevin Jenkins gave up a couple sacks against Green Bay Packers.
Right.
To me, that's easily correctable. He didn't get physically manhandled. He just had some poor technique. And because he had poor technique, that guy across from him took advantage of him.
Right.
So that's what he's got to become better at. Is using better technique throughout the game. You can't fall asleep. You can't think you're going to overpower people. Technique at the end of the day will always rule. It will always rule over anything else.
And the part that gets scary with him is the technique being poor because he's trying to overcompensate for something that's nagging, some kind of injury he has.
Well, that was Darnell Wright that had the issue last year. I think Darnell Wright was struggling.
Well, Darnell had
the
the arm. Yeah, he had the arm. Or the shoulder.
Yeah, shoulder. And that was causing him concern. I don't know if Tevin Jenkins had anything. I know he was
He had
busted
the
up
dual
during
quads early on, where he pulled both quads, or was it both hamstrings?
I don't get it. There's muscular discomfort that happens when you start to exert yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to work through that. That lactic acid that gets built up is not a shock, nor should it be a shock. So you've got to be able to work through that. And you just got to be able to train to the point where when you get into camp, that's not a shock to your body.
Yeah.
So to me, that's stunning. I went to camp and they worked our ass off at the University of Illinois when I was a junior in high school. My legs were sore. Well, guess what? I had to ice those bad boys down at the end of everything. I had to put a little Bengay on in the morning, a little at Flexol 454, put that all over the knees and everything just to try to make it feel better. It's still sore. Why? Because it was the middle of the summer. I was down there and they beating the living crap out of us down there.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out who could play and who couldn't play down there.
My goal is
Mike White. Remember that name?
Mike White.
Mike White was the head coach of the Fighting Illini back then. Yeah. And they were good. They were producing quarterbacks. Jack Trudeau, I think, came out of Illinois, and Tony Eason came out of Illinois. Yeah. They had some defensive linemen playing the league. They had some good players.
My goal this year is to get you, Lance, and J Mac all together on one pod during training camp.
Here in the building?
No, during training camp. When we're out at training camp, and it's a live pod while you guys watch what's going on and just lambast modern day training camp.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a way to practice. There's a way not to practice.
Yes.
We didn't put pads on in Green Bay with Mike Holmgren, but we practiced with speed.
Right.
Okay, if you're going to practice it, but if you put the pads on, well, guess what? You got to have a physical practice. You can't put the pads on and then pretend like you don't have them on. And that's what they did last year. And that's why they stunk like crap at the beginning of the season.
J-Mac said they were blocking mosquitoes out there. That's how they were attacking.
You could have put eggs between their shoulder pads. You wouldn't have cracked a single egg all day.
That's my goal, just to get that conversation together.
Wow.
Because Mercedes Lewis, I remember we were at camp. Mercedes
it was
Lewis,
bad.
Mercedes Lewis walks by and he's talking with Tony Medlin in front of me and J-Mac, and I think J-Mac was talking with him too. He walked up to him, and Mercedes is like, I could play 10 more years with this. Like this is great. Y'all remember how training camp was? He's been in the league almost 20 years now.
Yeah.
So he's seen the changes that it's going through.
Like I said, I go, if the pads are on, then play with the pads.
Yeah.
If you don't plan on hitting when the pads are on, what are you doing? I went to one practice. It was supposed to be the most physical practice. One practice. Showed up early, got there, got
had a
my
spot.
credential.
I remember it.
I'd never been to Hallis Hall. Had no idea where the hell I was going. Fortunately, a young lady from either Fox 32 or Channel 7 or somebody helped me out, got me into the right area. I said, thank you very kindly, and made my way out to the field. I watched it. And then they broke for like the first special teams drill. And I looked at Carmen and I said, I've seen enough. I never went back to a practice again during training camp. We were up there another 3 times. I will not waste my time.
Yeah.
My time's more valuable. I'd rather read stories, look at highlights, do anything else, but watch people waste their time.
Yeah.
And what they were doing in training camp was wasting their time.
Yeah.
If the pads are on, play. If the pads are off, play fast. Okay? But when you get the pads on, you got to hit. That's it. You got to hit.
Yeah.
People get hurt all the time. That's the nature of the game. That's the nature of the beast. The nature of football is people get hurt. I hope, and I'll give it one more chance. I'm going to go to the first physical practice they have this year.
That's the day. That's the day.
I go in there and I see a change in attitude, a change in philosophy.
Yes.
If I see it, if I go through 10 minutes and I go to that first 9-on-7 period and watch the crap that they did last year, if I see that again this year, it's going to be thank you. Good to see everybody. I'm back out to the blacktop. Could fry an egg on that blacktop. Could they put us any further away? Why not put us across the highway? I mean, what in the hell are you guys doing? I'm there during practice. Put me somewhere at the field so I can watch the practice. I don't want to say bad words. Fucking, I'm in the parking lot. The fuck am I doing in a parking lot? That doesn't make any sense.
I don't want to say bad words.
Well, that's where that's where they want. I don't want to be there. I want to be at practice.
Yeah.
So put me outside the practice thing so we can look at practice and talk about it. They act like they can't put something or build something, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yerk's fired up. Yerk's got to go do another show. And now he's all fired up. That's why I love doing the podcast and then listening to Yerk on Friday. Hey, appreciate you guys tuning in. Let us know what you guys thought about Caleb Williams' comments in the comments below. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. For John Yurkovich, the good kid, is your boy Pat the Designer, back at it again. Southside, they're going to be on the
Southside of Nashville.
Yeah,
that's where the White Sox should go.
Yeah, 108 losses there, too. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Peace.